Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and today is Thrive Thursday. That's right, y'all. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we are now here on Thursday. And like I say every show, at the beginning of every show, I celebrate you for getting here because I know if you listen to the show, you have been doing what you have to do to complete your day, not the week, because each day stacks upon itself. And guess what? Once you complete each day, then your week is over. So I celebrate you again for completing these 3 days, making it to Thursday, and you did not let off the gas. Today, we are talking about if it needs you, it's not a system. Yes. See, today, and every day, you know, I'm always here to help you reach your defined level of success because I want to make sure you are discovering and developing your gift or gifts. This is not just inspiration, people. This is alignment. This is structure. This is execution. And I'm going to repeat that at the beginning of each show because I want you to get it. And this week, we've been building something intentional. Our theme was, or is, engineering the environment where your gift can function at a high level. Monday, we defined the gift. Tuesday, we built the strategy. Yesterday, on Wednesday, we governed the environment. But today, we take the next step. We systemize it. Because there's a difference between doing something well and building something that works without you forcing it every time. See, most people have built effort. They've built discipline. They've built some level of consistency, but they have not built systems. And if it needs you every time, it's not a system. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 14:40. Let all things be done decently in order. That's not just order. That's design. That's system. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're tuning into the Afternoon Praise here on this Thrive Thursday, and we're talking about if it needs you, it's not a system. Effort does not scale. Now, effort can produce results, but effort cannot sustain growth because effort is a liner. You can only give so much time. You can only apply so much energy. You can only focus for so long. And once you hit that limit, everything plateaus. This is why people feel stuck. Not because they aren't working, but because they are trying to scale effort instead of building systems. And effort will always hit a ceiling. System removes ceilings. Systems allow results to continue even when you're not actively pushing. So the question becomes, are you building something that depends on your effort or something that can operate beyond it? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about if it needs you, it's not a system. If everything needs you to function, if you die today and everything quit, you never created a system. You created a job. See, if everything depends on you, you are the system, and that's a problem because now your output is tied to your energy, your time, your focus, and your ability. So when you're on, things move. When you're off, everything slows down. That's not structure. That's dependency. And dependency does not scale because the moment you step away, progress pauses. A real system doesn't need your consent, your presence. It needs your design. Let me say that again. A real system doesn't need your constant presence. It needs your design. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
This is Thrive Thursday, and I want to say welcome. If you just tuned in, welcome to Thrive Thursday. We are talking about if it needs you, it's not a system. And let's look at complexity will outgrow you. If your life grows, as your responsibilities increase, as more people become involved, complexity doesn't grow gradually. It grows exponentially. More communication, more decisions, more coordination, and without systems, everything starts colliding. Now, everything requires your attention, everything needs your input, everything runs through you. And that's when pressure increases, because you were never designed to carry that level of complexity manually. That's why systems exist, to manage complexity so it doesn't overwhelm you. People, put your systems in place. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're tuned in on this lovely Thursday. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if it's snowing. I don't care what's going on. It's lovely because God blessed you. He woke you up today. Yes, it is a beautiful, lovely Thursday. But let's talk about the bottleneck. The bottleneck is not the system. It's you. I'm going to say that again. The bottleneck is not in the system, is not the system, it's you. Because most of you all are the system. See, if decisions can't be made without you, if progress stops when you're not present, if everything requires your approval, you are not leading a system. You are the bottleneck. And bottlenecks slow everything down. Not because you're incapable, but because everything is waiting on you. And this is where growth gets stuck. Because no matter how good you are, you cannot be everywhere at once. So until you remove yourself as the center of everything, your growth will always be limited by your capacity. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. This is Thrive Thursday, and we are talking about systems. If it needs you, it's not a system. You are not a system. You are the bottleneck. But think once, right? Build forever. I need you to change your thoughts. I need you to restructure your brain. See, your brain is not designed to make high-level decisions all day. That's why you experience fatigue. That's why your clarity drops. That's why your execution becomes inconsistent over time. High-level operators understand this, so they don't rely on thinking more. They rely on thinking once and building a system that carries that decision forward. That means instead of deciding every day, you design once and execute repeatedly. That's the shift from constant thinking to consistent operation. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
If you got a shout out or a request, hit me up and I got you. Man, are you excited about the weekend? Yes, I am. I don't have nothing planned, but I'm still excited about it. But I'm more excited about Friday because guess what? We get to end the week strong. Yes, we do. Let's talk about reduce decisions, increase output. See, every decision costs energy, even the small ones. And over time, those decisions drain your ability to think clearly. That's why people start strong and finish weak, because they've spent their mental energy on things that don't matter. Systems eliminate unnecessary decisions. They define what happens, when it happens, how it happens. So you're not deciding everything, you are executing. And execution is where results come from. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7 Wave Radio.
I want to thank you for joining me on this Good Thrive Thursday, and I hope that everything is going well. But if it's not, I pray that things turn around for you on today. All right, let's talk about systems create repeatability. If it can't be repeated, it can't be scaled. And if it can't be scaled, it will always stay small. Systems create repeatability. They create rhythm. They create predictability. That's how results become consistent. And consistency is what allows something to grow beyond a moment. Because one good day means nothing, but repeated execution builds something real. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're tuned in to the Afternoon Praise. This is Thrive Thursday, and we are talking about if it needs you, it's not a system. If you stop, does it stop? Think about that question. If you stop, does it stop? Let's ask the real question. If you stop, does it stop? If you take a day off, does progress stop? If your energy drops, does everything slow down? If the answer is yes, you don't have a system, you have dependency. Because a real system continues to produce even when you're not actively pushing. Think about this. If you stop, does it stop? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
If you just tuned in and you're listening to the Afternoon Praise, you know who I am. It's me, Demetrius L. Brown, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man with the Man, I hope you all are smiling. Smile. I know you might have some heavy things on you, but smile, laugh at something. Laughter, it cures. All right. Let's talk about Nehemiah. Nehemiah, that's my guy right there. Nehemiah built a system. Nehemiah didn't just build a wall. He built a system. He started with God. Then he moved through relationships. Then he organized the work. If you don't believe me, go to Nehemiah 4:16 through 17. Half worked, half protected. That means progress and protection were happening at the same time. That's not effort, that's design. Nehemiah put a system together to build the walls back up. He put a system together so that he won't get distracted. He didn't allow Tobias and them to distract him. He didn't allow the noise of, oh man, you can't do this. He didn't allow that to distract him. He didn't allow the lies to distract him. He put a system in place, and the system started with God. And God showed him which relationships to build. You remember? Because the king Nehemiah was working for, he was the cupbearer for, he connected him with other people so that he could get his supplies. And he got them for free, money and supplies. So people, put your systems in place and start with God. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thrive Thursday. Leadership is system design. Nehemiah didn't lay every brick. He designed the environment where the work can be done. That's leadership. Leadership is not doing everything. Leadership is building something that works without you doing everything. Because if the leader has too much touch everything, if the leader has to touch everything, nothing can scale beyond the leader. That means your growth is capped at your capacity. And your capacity is limited. No matter how talented you are, no matter how disciplined you are, no matter how committed you are, if everything still depends on you, you've built an effort. You haven't built a system. And Nehemiah understood this. He assigned roles. He created structure. He built a process where people could operate without waiting on him. That's the shift from doing to designing, because when you design correctly, execution no longer depends on your presence. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Thrive Thursday. Relationships are systems. Yes, they are. They are. A relationship is not just a feeling. It's a system. It's a system of communication, expectations, behavior, and consistency. And when that system is undefined, everything becomes emotional. Now the relationship runs on how you feel, how they feel, what happened today, what didn't happen today. And that creates instability because emotions fluctuate, but systems create consistency. That means healthy relationships don't just happen. They are structured. They are intentional. They are built on repeated patterns that creates trust. If communication is inconsistent, trust becomes inconsistent. If behavior is inconsistent, stability becomes inconsistent. So the question becomes, are you in a relationship that runs on emotion or one that runs on structure? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're tuning into the Afternoon Praise, and this is Thrive Thursday. We are talking about if it needs you is not a system. And we talk about systems in business and brands, all that good stuff. But let me tell you, family without systems become reactive. If your household has no structure, everything becomes reactive. No schedule, no rhythm, no defined expectations, no clear roles. So now every situation becomes a reaction, a correction, a conversation after the fact, instead of something that was already understood. That creates stress because nothing is predictable, nothing is stable. And when there is no stability, there is no peace. Systems in the home creates clarity. They create rhythm, expectations, consistency. So people don't have to guess, they know. And when people know, they operate better. That's why systems don't just belong in business, they belong in life. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Thank you for joining me on this Thursday here on Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. I hope that you are sharing the radio station because I'm telling you, when I'm not on air, I sit back and listen to the music and I get variety of gospel Christian music. I'm talking about people who have a heart for God and songs that just, man, it just make my heart, make my baby leap. You know, God just be speaking to me through these songs. So I hope you are sharing Wave Radio. But let's talk about systems build trust everywhere. Trust is not built on what you say. Trust is built on what people experience repeatedly, and patterns, not promise. And systems are what create patterns. That's true in business. That's true in leadership. That's true in relationships. Because when your actions are consistent, people don't have to question you. They don't have to wonder what version of you they're getting today. They don't have to guess how things will go. They know, and certainly builds trust. Again, certainty builds trust. I know I said it wrong the first time. That's all right. I'm live. I can't go back and change it. But inconsistency creates hesitation, and hesitation slows opportunity. So when your systems is strong, your trust increase. And when your trust increases, your opportunities expand. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thursday. Excuse me, I had something in my throat. That's how we say it in the country, in my throat. Man, systems reduce pressure. When everything depends on you, everything pressures you. Every decision, every action, every outcome. Now you're carrying the responsibility, the execution, the correction. All at once. That's not leadership. That's overload. And over time, that pressure turns into fatigue. And fatigue turns into inconsistency. But systems distribute pressure. They create structure so that everything doesn't require your involvement. Now, work continues without constant supervision. Now, decisions don't have to be made from scratch every time. Now, problems don't escalate the same way because the system absorbs the pressure. That's what systems are designed to do. Not remove responsibility, but remove unnecessary strain. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're tuning into the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio on this Thrive Thursday. Again, we are talking about if it needs you, it's not a system. See, systems create freedom. Most people think freedom comes from having less structure, but that's not true. Freedom comes from having systems that work. Because when your system is strong, you don't have to force results. You don't have to constantly think. You don't have to constantly decide. The system carries the weight. And now your energy is freed up for growth, creativity, leadership. That's real freedom. Not doing whatever you want, but building something that produces without constant effort. Because when results become a byproduct, you stop chasing success and you start producing it. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
My time is up, good people. And if you just tune in like, oh, your time is up. Where you going, man? I just got here. Well, I've been here. Yes. And if you miss any part of this show, the Afternoon Praise, you can go to Wave Radio and listen to the whole show entirely, or you can go to my YouTube channel, The Business Point God. So if you just got here, you need to work on timing because the show is from 2 to 6. But that's all right. You made it. But let me leave you with this. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 14, verse 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. Order is not restriction. Order is system. Order is structure. Order is designed. Because systems produce consistency. Consistency builds trust. Trust creates opportunity, and opportunity builds results. But none of that happens without systems. None of that happens without structure. None of that happens without removing yourself as the center of everything. Because if everything still depends on you, nothing can grow beyond you. So today, don't just work harder. Don't just try to stay consistent. Build something that works. Build something that produces. Build something that continues, even when you're not actively pushing it. Because if it needs you every time, it's not a system. And I want to leave you with this. If it needs you, it's not a system. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. I am out of here. I will catch you tomorrow on Fearless Faith Friday. And again, I celebrate you to making it to Thursday. You didn't let off the gas. You continue to push forward and push hard. Hey, I'm out of here. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.